The auction hall was filled with murmurs of anticipation. But there was one dog who sat quietly in the corner, unnoticed and rejected by the crowd. His fur was matted, and his eyes lacked the usual spark that typically caught the eyes of potential owners. The volunteers at the shelter stood near, trying to convince the crowd of his worth. But the bidding never even reached the starting price. This wasn't the first time the dog had been passed over, and there was a silent understanding among the shelter workers that he wouldn't find a home today either. His name was Max, a German shepherd with a history of being left behind. He had been in the shelter for over 6 months, overlooked by many because of his past and his timid demeanor. Max had been abused, neglected, and had suffered much, but no one seemed willing to take a chance on him. As the bidding continued, a 9-year-old boy named Liam sat in the back row of the auction hall. His eyes were wide with wonder as he watched the process unfold. Liam had come with his father, but it wasn't the other dogs that caught his attention. It was Max. The dog's sad eyes seemed to speak to him, pulling him in like a magnet. Liam nudged his father, his small fingers gripping the arm of the chair. "Dad, can we bid on that dog?" His father, a middle-aged man with a kind face, looked at Liam in surprise. "Liam, that dog looks like he's been through a lot. Are you sure you want to take him home?" Liam nodded vigorously. "He looks like he needs a friend. Maybe he just needs someone who won't give up on him." His father sighed, but smiled softly at Liam's persistence. "I suppose if you're really sure, we can give it a try." Liam's heart raced as he watched the auctioneer call out for the next bid. With only a few minutes left, Liam's father stood up, raising his hand hesitantly. The bidding quickly stopped, the room growing quiet as the auctioneer fixed his gaze on Liam's father. "Are you bidding on the dog?" the auctioneer asked, surprised. "Yes, we'd like to buy the dog," Liam's father replied, his voice steady, though his heart pounded. He had never expected to find himself bidding at an animal auction, especially for a dog like Max. But seeing the hope in Liam's eyes, he couldn't back out now. The room was silent as the auctioneer raised his gavel. "Sold to the man in the back," he called out, his voice breaking the silence. Liam's face lit up. The moment had come. They had won. Max was now theirs. Max, who had once been forgotten, who had been rejected time and time again, was finally going home. As Liam walked toward Max's cage, he felt an overwhelming sense of joy. But Max, though quiet, stood still. There was a moment of hesitation in the dog's eyes as Liam gently reached out his hand, but something shifted in Max's gaze. A spark, a flicker of trust. Liam bent down, crouching to Max's level. "It's okay, boy. You're going to be okay now. You're going home with me," he whispered softly. The shelter workers watched from a distance, their hearts warmed by the exchange between the boy and the dog. They had seen many people come and go, but it was rare to see such pure connection between a child and an animal like this. Max, who had been turned away by so many, was now the most prized possession in Liam's life. The boy's father smiled, knowing that this was the beginning of something special. The journey Max had ahead wasn't going to be easy, but it was a journey of healing, trust, and love. As Liam led Max out of the auction hall, his hand resting on the dog's back, there was a sense of peace in the air. No words were needed between them. They were already forming a bond that would carry them through whatever challenges life would throw at them. But what happened next would surprise everyone. Max, once the dog nobody wanted, would show them just how powerful the bond between a boy and his dog could be. The next few days were filled with new experiences for Max. It wasn't just the change in scenery that made him feel uneasy. It was the sudden realization that he was finally in a safe place, but after months of neglect and pain, he didn't quite know how to trust again. He'd never had a family, and now, here he was, living with one. Liam and his father, Daniel, tried everything they could to make him feel welcome. They gave him a warm bed, bowls of food, and gentle words of encouragement. But the transition wasn't easy for Max. At night, he would whimper softly, his mind replaying the years of abandonment. Liam would hear the sounds and slip out of his bed, quietly sitting by Max's side, offering his presence. "You're safe now, Max," he would whisper. "I'm not going anywhere." Daniel watched from the doorway, his heart aching for the bond between the boy and the dog. Max was still distant, but there was a tenderness in the way he would follow Liam around, just a few steps behind him. The dog's progress, though slow, was evident. There was something about the gentle touch of a child that seemed to make all the difference. Weeks passed, and Max's transformation became more visible. The fur that had once been matted and dull began to shine again. His movements, though cautious, became more confident. He would wag his tail when Liam returned from school, his eyes bright with anticipation. It was small steps, but they were big milestones for a dog who had once been overlooked. One afternoon, as Liam was walking Max through the neighborhood, a loud engine roared in the distance. Max stiffened, his ears pricked. He could hear the unmistakable growl of motorcycles approaching, a sound that triggered his deep-seated fear. He had been around bikers before, and it had never been a good experience. Liam noticed the change in Max's behavior immediately. The dog's muscles tensed, and he backed away slowly, growling under his breath. "Max, it's okay," Liam said softly, but the dog wasn't having it. He was ready to bolt, driven by the trauma of his past. And then, the bikes appeared. A group of men, dressed in leather jackets, pulled up, laughing boisterously. They slowed down as they noticed Max, their eyes narrowing in a predatory way. Liam felt a twinge of unease in his chest. "Hey, kid, what's this mutt doing here?" one of the men sneered. Liam instinctively stepped in front of Max, his body tense. "He's not for sale," Liam replied, his voice steady but defensive. The men chuckled, sizing up the young boy. "What's a little dog like that gonna do?" one of them jeered, clearly dismissing Liam's protective stance. But Liam wasn't afraid. He could feel Max's heart pounding beneath his hand, the tension building. Without thinking, he said, "He may not look like much, but he's not someone you want to mess with." The bikers laughed, taunting Liam further. But as they moved closer, something unexpected happened. Max, who had always been wary of strangers, suddenly lunged forward with a deep growl. The bikers were caught off guard by the dog's sudden aggression, but they were even more shocked by the speed and precision of his movements. Max had done something Liam didn't expect. He had defended his family. In that moment, the dog was no longer the neglected, abused animal he had once been. He was the protector of his new family. Liam's heart raced as he stood there, holding Max back. The bikers, now wary, hesitated. They had expected a meek, broken dog, but Max was neither. He stood tall, every inch the warrior he had been in his past life. "Get out of here," one of the bikers muttered, clearly shaken. The men backed off, not wanting to risk an encounter with the dog. They quickly revved their engines and sped off, leaving Liam and Max standing in the middle of the street. Liam looked down at Max, his eyes wide. "You did it," he whispered, his voice filled with awe. Max's tail wagged, the slightest sign of pride. He had been through so much, but in that moment, he had reclaimed his dignity. He wasn't the scared dog from the auction. He wasn't the dog that had been abandoned. He was a protector, and this was his family. As they walked home together, Liam felt a deep sense of gratitude. Max wasn't just a dog to him, he was a reminder that even the most broken beings could find strength, even after the worst kind of pain. And as Max walked beside him, there was no doubt in Liam's mind that their bond, built on trust and unconditional love, would carry them through anything life could throw their way.